Okay, we're back talking about comparative adjectives. I thought of a good example for an irregular adverb. So what if, for little, what if we said, she liked this candy only a little? How did she like it? Like is a verb. How did she like it? A little. So little is an adverb telling us about how she liked, how much she liked the candy. Now I wouldn't say she liked this candy more little or less little, right? I would say she likes this candy less than that candy. She likes this candy the least of all these candies. Okay, all right. So instead of it being little, more little, or most little, or little, littler, and littlest, it's little, less, and least. So it doesn't follow the normal rules. Therefore, it's an irregular adverb. Okay? All right, take a look at the exercises on the next page. This house was constructed, the word is recently, right? And we're comparing two houses. So we would say this house was constructed more recently than the house across the street. Remember, the rule here is if we're comparing two things, we're going to use more. If we're comparing many things, we're going to use most. So this house was constructed more recently. Recently is an adverb because it's telling us when the house was constructed. Constructed is a verb, so if we're describing that verb, modifying that verb, then we're using an adverb. If we're using that adverb to compare, it's a comparative adverb. We use more or most for adverbs that end in ly. All right? Sarah drives, so the word is carefully. So what are we doing? We're talking not just about two things, but all of the past. Not just she drives more carefully than yesterday, she drives more carefully than any other time. So she drives, actually it's now and before. So two things. So she drives more carefully than she did before. Okay, drives is the verb, carefully is modifying the verb, so carefully is an adverb. I'm comparing two different times, so I'm going to use more. She drives more carefully. After a few weeks of lessons, I could dance gracefully. I'm comparing how I dance now to how I danced before, two times, so I'm going to use more. Gracefully ends in ly. So to make it comparative, I'm going to use more or most. I'm just comparing two times, now and before, so I'm going to use more. After a few weeks of lessons, I could dance more gracefully than before. All right? So, number 4, trains go fast. So, fast is telling us about go. Go is a verb. It's an action. So how do they go? They go fast, but planes go, now I'm comparing two things, but fast doesn't end in ly, right? So remember our rule from the page before. If it's a short, particularly one syllable adverb that doesn't end in ly, we're going to use er or est. So trains go fast, but planes go faster. Okay. Let's see. Did cities, number 5, did cities grow? When did they grow quickly? In the 50s, the 70s, or the 90s? So we're not comparing just two times, we're comparing more than two times. So we say, did cities grow most quickly during the 1950s, the 1970s, or the 1990s? So quickly ends in ly. It's an adverb because it's modifying grow. Grow is a verb. It's an action. So, and I'm comparing not two things to one another, but three things. So, did they grow most quickly during this time, or this time? Okay, and number 6 is an irregular adverb. So, we would say he played. Played is the verb. How did he play? He played well, right? So if we're comparing two things, normally we would say, we would use more. But we don't say Joe won because he played more well than Jane. We say Joe won because he played better. It's not regular, right? It's irregular. So, number 7, he hit the ball. How? How did he hit it? Hit is a verb. He hit it powerfully. So if I'm comparing him to all the rest of the competitors, it ends in ly, so I'm going to be using more or most. I'm comparing him to all the rest, so I say he hit the ball the most powerfully of all the competitors. All right? All right, so you can take a look at the rest of these. One thing you might notice is that when we're using more or most, we tend to say more, but when we use most, we say the most, not just most. So he hit the ball more powerfully than his friend, comparing two things. He hit the ball more powerfully, but he hit the ball the most powerfully of all competitors. So that often happens. Sometimes we say the before the superlative one. Sometimes we don't. Most of the time we do. All right? Okay, that's it for today. Thanks.